don't want to do this. It's Hal here, but I am doing this, and I'm not alone. Matt,
Hal,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm sure we'll get into the details of why I'm good a little bit later. But look, it's been a while since I've been on here, so a pleasure to be back on with you, and looking forward to getting into what was definitely a dramatic afternoon in North London.
Yes, Matt is a Tottenham Hotspur fan, but you will be outnumbered. You will be outnumbered massively, and that is the way we like it. Josh is a Blade. Josh, for the first time that I'm speaking to you on the Sheffield United way, how are you?
Less good than Matt, I would imagine, but can't complain, all things considered.
Good. And better late than never. I would imagine you're pretty tired, Ben. Travelling Blade, how are you?
Knackered. Emotionally, physically drained.
That's the tiredest I've ever heard you. Are you sure you're going to be all right to continue? Do you want to lie down and do this perpendicular?
I did almost start it from my bed.
Well, this is a great start. Good. Well, we've got at least three people here who are raring to go. So we've got Josh, we've got Matt, we've got Ben. Tottenham 2, Sheffield United 1. Ben, talk me through your experience at the game.
Oh, soul destroying. One of those where obviously I know we've obviously not had a great start to the season, and you're going in, and also not just playing Tottenham, the fact that Tottenham have started so well to this season. Speaking to some Spurs fans before, and I was saying if it had been last season going into this game, I'd probably been fancying us to get something. Not obviously, I'm not saying I'd have been expecting us to win, but going in thinking we've probably got a good chance of a draw here. But because Spurs have, even obviously with the obviously without Kane, started so well, you're going into it almost in a similar vein to how we went into the Man City game in a way, just not expecting anything whatsoever. I thought the first half, obviously Spurs dominated the ball, but I thought that we had the best chances based on the fact that Wes's saves all seemed far more comfortable and routine, whereas I don't know who was in net for Spurs, but he had to actually dive and get his shirt dirty, making the saves. And then the second half was worse for us. We had even less of the ball. But then miraculously somehow, good old Jackie long throw, it's bouncing around the box. I'm pretty sure, I think I've seen it back, and I think it took quite the deflection, but the goal goes in from Harmer, whoever cares, Gustavo, and it was absolutely biblical. It was one of those games where, it's the game if it ended 0-0, I'd have been very happy with the 0-0. But then we're 1-0 up. I think it was like the 60-odd minute or something like that. And I'm going, oh God, we've got quite naively, we've got like 20-odd minutes left. Little did I know what was coming our way. I think it's still playing now. I think they're still kicking around down there at Tottenham. There was that much added on, and then it's you sat there thinking this is going to be up there with the likes of like Chelsea away, Bournemouth away, one of those like historic games where you look back and go, God, what a flipping result that was. And then your nerves are getting absolutely shredded. You're going through the flipping mincer. It's just purgatory. You're just sort of waiting for the inevitable. And as soon as I thought there might have been like 6. I mean, admittedly, obviously we did run the clock down a lot. So that's why there was 12. But as soon as they put the 12 minutes on, I just knew. I've even got it on record saying Spurs are going to equalise, if not win, in this 12 minutes. And I just knew it was coming. It was just inevitable.
Well, there you go. That's the end of our fans react. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Now, Josh, what did you think of United's performance, please, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ben summed it up really. I expected nothing from the game going into it. I was, quite happy just to look for some improvement and look to see us building on what we'd built on. And then come half time, I was really delighted. I put a tweet out. I thought, we looked really solid, really confident. I was really pleased with large elements of how we played. Like Ben said, Tottenham were always going to have a lot of the ball. They were always going to have chances. But for long spells, especially in that first half, I thought we looked every bit a Premier League team, comfortable on the ball when we did get on the ball. And had some good chances. And then it became a nail-biter of a second half. I didn't necessarily have too many complaints about the 12 minutes of added time. I just really hoped that we could see it through. We had a couple of a couple of cameos from the newer players as well, which was good to see. Davies coming on, and I thought Luke Thomas as well was really solid on that left-hand side. And I think we just needed a bit of stability on that left-hand side. I like Larouci. I think he's going to offer a lot, but I thought he offered that. Jack Robinson's performance was absolutely excellent throughout, and Ollie McBurney as well, providing a massive outlet with those flicked-on headers. I would have liked to have seen maybe Archer come off for Traore or somebody a little bit later on, because I didn't think he was quite linking up with McBurney at times. But yeah, I was delighted with the performance. Became a nail biter, and then those last 12 minutes.
Those last 12 minutes. Matt, what's the feeling in the Tottenham camp after 12 minutes added on, and then you end up snatching victory from the jaws of defeat?
Look, the feeling's pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I think going into the game, we probably expected it to be a lot more comfortable. And I was watching the game with a friend of mine who's a United fan, who was watching the United game at the same time. It was about 20 minutes in. I think it was after the chance Basuma had when he ran into the box and Sarr's header. And I said, we're going to batter these. And I think that just didn't give the respect to Sheffield United that they deserved. And I completely agree with what Ben said, that in the first half, the better the chances did fall to Sheffield United, because even though we had the majority of possession, we had the more shots, the more kind of play around your box. It was a lot of siders from distance, aside from maybe that Sarr header and the one shot from Son that Fotheringham got down well to save. So if it had been a simple 2-3-0 win, I think it would have just been so routine that it wouldn't really have mattered for Spurs. But the fact that it happened in the way that it did, and looking at how in the last couple of years, especially in the latter half of last season, the way we didn't have the mentality that we needed. If we'd gone 1-0 down in that game yesterday, we wouldn't have had the mentality to fight back. We wouldn't have had the creativity on the pitch to actually make something happen. And the game would have petered out. If it had been 5 minutes, 12 minutes, or 106 minutes added on, it would have petered out into a win for Sheffield United. So the fact that we are starting to see that change in the way we're approaching these things, that never give up attitude that we have been lacking, is really great. And I tweeted out after the game that up until before yesterday, I'd said that we'd still be lucky to get top 6, even though we've started the season as well as we have. We don't have depth, especially in defence. We're not getting enough contributions from some of the players up top, which admittedly did change yesterday. And I thought those were the games that would have cost us this season, because we haven't had the mentality last year. We don't know how we're going to react in those situations this season. But yesterday, and I know the celebration police are coming out and saying, oh, it's only 5th game of the season, blah, but it doesn't matter. It feels like a massive turning point for Spurs. It's the latest winning comeback in Premier League history. It was a massive, massive moment, and it just feels great that we could actually be that team that wins the games that we shouldn't win again this season, because it's been a while since we've had that. Let's
go through the stats. Spurs had 70% possession to Sheffield United's 30. Quick maths. 28 shots for Tottenham, 7 for United. But the Blades did have 5 on target. Tottenham only had 10 on target from those 28. Tottenham had 15 corners. United had 2. In a way, Sheffield United looking like we can actually defend corners until we couldn't, with that inevitable Richarlison goal. It was a shame that Chris Basham seemed like he lost his man there. Matt, we witnessed James Maddison speaking to the referee a lot during this game, complaining about time wasting. Apparently, Tottenham have a leadership group. This was brought up on my match reaction last night, which I know you saw. Tell me about that.
Tottenham have a leadership group. That is true. It is Son, Romero, and Maddison. I don't know if the rules are that it has to be the captain that speaks to the referee, or it has to be just one player. I'm not too sure. I know you mentioned it quite a bit, Hal, that it is just the captain.
I thought it was just the captain. Someone can correct us in the comments, I'm sure. I'm not a referee.
It's potentially part of the changes from this season. I know in the past it was if 2 or more players approach, there is a booking. I think now it's just you can only have one player speaking to the referee. I'm not too sure. Now, Maddison was booked for dissent during the game, so there was some bit of punishment there for it. But yeah, it's one of those. As a Spurs fan, I'm going to say, well, I agree with him. I think we should have got more decisions. On the other side of things, you're obviously going to say that, well, if our players are getting booked for dissent, he should get booked more as well. I think it's just one of those that we're going to disagree on. But for me, I did think there were a lot of decisions that kind of swayed the momentum of the game that did go in Sheffield United's favour, but that's just the nature of the game.
Wow. Ben, what do you think of what Matt's just said? And also, what were your thoughts on the accusations of time wasting?
Obviously, I was very disappointed with obviously the time added on, but then obviously when I calmed down, I went, that's probably justified. But I think I was saying to someone yesterday, it's like we start the Premier League now. It's so hard for promoted teams, like especially like for us, like Forest came like what 4th or 5th bottom. I had to spend like so many like million. I started saying sort of like they ain't got the money or the players, so sort of time wasting was one of the only sort of strings to our bow. So we can't even do that now. But yeah, I think as well, to be fair, I think there was a couple of decisions that I thought could have gone Spurs' way, where I think there was at least one good shout. So obviously, I was in the away corner, so that corner I could see everything there, but the other end can't really see what's going on there. But I think pretty sure it was in the first half, and I thought that could have been a penalty. I think if it was Basham or Maddison, I thought could have been a pen. I think the fact that Maddison threw his arms up, didn't help the decision. I've seen that it's this Premier League way. If people are overly dramatic, it does nothing for their cause to get the penalty. So I think that definitely could have been a penalty. I think as well, my heart was in my mouth when Wes came out, and I thought it was one of them where, I'm a very biased fan, and I'm always shouting at the ref, even when the referee's correct. But with the referee given Wes a red card, I wouldn't have been shouting anything. I'd have been gone. That's probably a fair point. So I think they got a free kick. I think Wes must have fouled him. But yeah, there was a few where I thought, I think we've got away with that there. Obviously, there was Spurs had a goal ruled out for the linesman flagged for offside, and they didn't. I take it must have been offside because obviously with VAR they spend half an hour reviewing things, don't they? So, but yeah, I think overall, yeah, there was a couple of things perhaps we got away with. I was very disappointed though with McBurney's second yellow. Don't really know why. I think that was a bit needless from the ref, I'd say. I know the players have been booked for dissent, but I don't know. It was like I think it was already 2-1, so it must have been like the 102nd minute or something like that.
Yeah, we were never talking about minutes like that in games before. This is since the World Cup, isn't it? This, and we're going to have to get used to it, Ben.
Yeah, that's it. And I think as well, like I think what's makes it hard for for us as Blades yesterday is the fact that it's probably like the third time this season we've given away, not in those minutes, but Forest away, we lost sort of late on. Man City, I know it's Man City, but still that was like the 96th minute or something. And then yesterday, the fact that I think like in the 97th minute, so on BBC Sports, the first goal for Spurs is recorded in the 98th minute. So if you're saying to me you're 1-0 up in the 97th minute, you fancy your chances. But it's just another late lapse from us. But we've got ourselves to blame for in all three of those games that I've mentioned. We've got no one to blame but ourselves, and I think it is. I mean, one part of me was saying, look, just defend if it's the 97th or the 27th minute. But I think what's probably happened with those games is that, especially against Spurs and City, is the fact that maybe not sort of such a lack of quality. Well, there is a lack of quality, but I think also we get tired more than other teams are, and the tiredness translates into a lack of judgment, up mentally tired as well. And says it's like third time this season we've thrown away points very, very, very late on in the game, which I think that made it all the worse.
Whoever keeps messaging you, Ben, tell them just to wait till we finish this. And Statsman Adam says, 86 minutes this season, we have had 6 points. Lost 1 versus Forest, as you were saying. Lost 1 versus Man City. Lost 3 versus Spurs and denied 2 by freak saves and the woodwork combo against Everton at the death. Stoppage time being kinder, we'd have 8 points this season as opposed to 1, although Sheffield United are still not in the relegation zone. Josh, what is the solution? Because now you're not playing a 90-minute game of football, are you?
Yeah, if I knew that, I'd be straight on the phone to Hecky. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, listen, we know that we're not going to get as much possession this season, and that's exhausting. You're running around, you're chasing, you're putting your body on the line. Towards the end of the first half, Jack Robinson looked exhausted. He'd worked tirelessly non-stop. And I think Basham as well, just run out of steam. And you alluded to it earlier. I think he lost his man for the Richarlison goal. And there were times when he got turned too quickly. I don't know. But I do think what I have seen from this team, if we look back at that game against Palace, and not just the team that we put out, but how we played, how we approached things, And then we look at that performance yesterday. We look at that performance against City. The improvement has been incredible in such a short period. These new signings are settling in really, really well. And, I'm wondering if it's just a matter of time. We just keep these players playing together. We keep the commitment. We keep the desire. We keep our heads up despite the results. And, I'm still hopeful. I think things will start to fall for us.
I am too. I am still hopeful. I love that attitude. Also, Josh, while I've got you, do you admire time wasting? Is it actually a legitimate tactic for teams who can't go toe-to-toe away from home with a superior side?
Take your time, Sheffield United. No, I mean, just on the time wasting yesterday, I said earlier I didn't have a problem with the 12 minutes. The reason I didn't have a problem with the 12 minutes was because Wes was down for treatment, was because Bogle was down for treatment. I didn't see much time wasting. There was one part where the camera, I was watching it on the telly, and it went across the Spurs fans, and they were tapping their watches and going, time, ref, time. Well, it only just called for a goal kick. I think the difference here was that the Spurs manager clearly had said to them, play quickly, attack. And you could see that in the way that they went about the business. They always wanted the ball in play. They always wanted to be quick. We didn't want to be quick. We wanted the game to be a little bit different. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think Wes took excessive amounts of time with his free kicks at all. And I think Hecky's interview yesterday summed it up quite well.
We need to talk about Hecky has been very critical of the referee's performance and performances of officials in general. And following this game, here's what he said. Something needs to be done now. And this is not me moaning. I said it at half-time when we were 1-0 up as well. The focus is on time wasting. So the referees are dictating how we play. We set up from the back. Then Spurs push forward. And then that dictates how we play. But no, we're just told to play long. The answer back to me was, well, kick long then. We work all week on how we want to play, and the refs are dictating to us how we play the game. It can't happen, but it's happening. They've got obsessed about time wasting and yellow cards. Wes got a yellow card for handling outside the box and then got threatened with being sent off for time wasting. You can't do it. The officiating is appalling, and it's not about the football decisions. It's just game management. They just do not know what they're doing. The people who are directing our game have not got a clue about our game. They don't know football. Ben, what do you make of those fairly strong comments? Why can't we hear you anymore? Josh, what do you make of those?
I pressed mute, apologies.
All right, then we'll come back to Josh. What do you make?
Yes, I'm quite glad he's calling it out, to be fair. I think as well, probably if there's any Spurs fans watching, and I know there were Spurs fans yesterday that were like, I remember leaving the ground and saying, I hate playing Sheffield United. They always time waste. But like I said, that's what, in terms of time wasting, though, it's sort of, in that they're saying to us, you've got to kick long, in terms of whether it's being really defensive or time wasting, that's all we can afford to do. We're not in a position to come out and start trying to play like Man City, really open football, just saying, let's not waste time just because it's gonna ruin a few Spurs fans' days, or whichever top 6 team, big 6 team we're playing that week. We're not we can't afford to do anything else really at the minute. We're not in a position. So I'm glad that Hecky has been quite spiky and has been frank and calling out, saying, the fact that that's actually happening, and those refs are saying that to Hecky, I think is disgraceful, to be fair, and just lacks respect.
Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this. You said a little bit earlier that you didn't quite have the depth at Tottenham. So I've got a comment. Keith says Tottenham bringing on £140 million of substitutes on for the last 10 minutes is anti-football. Football should be as far as is possible an even competition. We haven't got Tottenham's money, so should accept that we will use what we have, such as time, aggression, discipline, to even things up. Matt, what are your thoughts on those kind of comments?
Well, when I said we didn't have depth, I meant at centre half. I think across the rest of the pitch in midfield, once you get a few players back from injury and up top especially, our depth is absolutely ridiculous. The thing with the 5 subs, I'll be honest, I don't understand. It was brought in, was it during COVID, for whatever reason they gave for that. It's one thing that's just stuck. For me, 3 subs before, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm not sure why that's changed. In terms of the level playing field, look, I understand that you can't have one team going out spending £1 billion in a window and another not having $1 million to spend. If it's a gap like that, fair enough. I completely understand it, but I think the beauty of sport is that there are underdogs, there are bigger teams, there are the teams in the middle ground and all that. I don't think it's you're bringing in like a cost cap where teams can only spend a certain amount, kind of leveling things in that way. For me, I'm not sure that would work. And again, I know that's much easier for me to say as a Spurs fan than it would be for a Sheffield United fan. But the time wasting thing as well, I'll be honest, I don't agree with the majority of Spurs fans that are saying it was all Sheffield United, it was all Wes Fotheringham, it was all this, it was all that. I think that there was an element to that there. I myself was getting frustrated, and I tweeted it out as well at one point that 6-second rule, which I know isn't enforced, but I thought at times yesterday Fotheringham was kind of just running away with that. He's holding the ball for 15, 20 seconds, a goal kick's kind of taking their time. But for me, the majority of the delays came from the injuries that were throughout the game. Fotheringham, that injury he had at the start of the second half. I think Bogle, you mentioned, was down at one time as well. Pedro Porro, he was down after the challenge from Davis. There were a lot of genuine delays in that game, and you have to add that on. If there's a stoppage in the game for 2-3 minutes, you have to add on 3 minutes. If it's 30 seconds,
Matt, but I'll just counter that and say first half, 3 minutes were added on.
Made no sense.
Felt like there were a lot more stoppages. What's going on? There's no consistency. How can you prepare for that as a management team?
You can't. And the referee, from the first minute to last, in whatever way you want to look at that referee yesterday, he was an absolute joke. There was 14 yellow cards in that game yesterday, and it was not like, it was a very normal game of football. There was nothing.
Not a dirty game. Yeah.
Not at all. The Tom Davis challenge is the only one I'd look at and go, okay, well, that's got to be a yellow. I did miss the Van de Ven thing on Fotheringham, so maybe that was a blatant yellow as well. I didn't see that. But there's
honest, Matt, that was nasty, and that possibly, dare I say it, could have even been a red. And he really had a shiner on there, and that'll be there for a few days, I think.
Look, I'll take your word for it. I didn't see it, but I do think there is going to be an element of inconsistency with all the changes that they've brought in this season. With the added time from the World Cup, it's in effect in all of English football now. The EFL is an absolute joke what's going on there, but as well, the being more strict on yellow cards, with time wasting, with dissent, with everything. There is going to be inconsistencies, and there is going to be games that you're looking at and thinking, well, how come there's 14 yellow cards in that game, where this intense rivalry where they were kicking each other for 90 minutes, there's only 10 yellow cards in that or whatever. Yesterday actually had the most yellow cards in a single day of Premier League football in the competition's history.
Wow.
Since 1992. It was 44. The previous record was 43. So that is the way the game is going. But when it's new and when you're trying to get used to it, it's so easy to be aggrieved by what is happening because you're not used to it. But if they go in a direction where every game that was like that yesterday, every game that has a few people shouting at the ref, that has a little bit of time wasting, if you're going to book them for all of that, fantastic. But if there's a game next week, imagine Sheffield United are drawing 1-1 away to Newcastle next week. There's a bit of time wasting. There's a bit of Newcastle players shouting at the ref, and there's no yellow cards in that. Well, then we've got a massive problem that I think needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
I'm very glad I'm not actually just getting into football now, because it is a very, very different game. And we've got Newcastle next, actually at Bramall Lane. Carlton says the Premier League is governed by viewing figures and internet interactions. Spurs bring in a lot more than United. In any job, you give your biggest suppliers and customers the most attention. It's not sport, it's entertainment. I wonder if any of that ever plays into the minds of anyone involved. I mean, Josh, what have you made of the officiating since our return to the top flight?
I without sounding, like a conspiracy theorist, I think that that comment summed it up. There are times when it feels like the protection that is afforded to top players, and I saw it a lot against Man City. It's this kind of, hang on, Sheffield United, everyone's here watching this game abroad. They want to see, Rodri and Foden and all of that on the ball. That's what they're here to see. So if you put a foot even slightly wrong when making your tackles, we'll come down on you. And it did feel like there was this kind of frustration anytime Tottenham or Man City got interrupted in their play. And an awful lot of protection afforded to those players, certainly.
Fair comments. Ben, who was your Blades man of the match? I just want to, before you answer, say it's really worth a mention. Vinicius Sousa's Tottenham stats, courtesy of FOTMob, 87% passing accuracy, 100% dribbling success. I love this guy. 5 clearances, 5 recoveries, 3 interceptions, 2 out of 2 aerial duels, 1. A rock, you could say, in the middle of the park. What a signing he's been. Heck, he's apparently number 1 target, some have said. So, Ben, don't let that sway you. Who was your Blades man of the match?
Well, I don't really pay attention to what's going on, but however, I think for me it was joint between McBurney and Wes. For me, I thought Wes was fantastic. I think also, especially in the second half, from what I could see right at the other end of the pitch, there was also some very good saves as well. But also McBurney, I think he needs a bit more. I thought Archer went missing yesterday. To be fair, I remember, McBurney was very involved, commanding his aerial battles, winning flick-ons, holding it up. But we didn't really. I don't know. There was times where I thought he'd be winning flick-ons and that, and there wasn't much coming of it. So, yeah, I'd go between McBurney and Wes yesterday for my man of the match.
I mean, I did a match reaction where I spoke about Tottenham fans throwing the balls on the pitch, so we're probably not going to cover that again now. I spoke about McBurney playing really well, I thought, excluding that second yellow when he told the ref that Brennan Johnson pulled his shirt. Difficult one to take. I spoke about Jack Robinson being fantastic. Obviously, Harmer, thought he put in a really good shift as well. And Wes did what Wes does, and he saved 10 shots. 8 shots. He tries to do the maths. Matt, who was Tottenham's man of the match?
It's a difficult one. There was a few contenders. I thought Pat Matter yesterday was absolutely exquisite, and he has been for the majority of the season. To come into the team in the way that he has, having barely played any minutes last season. I think he actually started 2 games last season, and they were against Arsenal and AC Milan. So thrown in the deep end last year, but he's found an element of consistency this season and a role in that midfield that has suited him so perfectly. And I thought his passing range yesterday at times to open up the game at a few different stages was really, really good. I think Maddison, just in the way he's been all season, floating around, picking out some brilliant passes and just really keeping the game ticking over and moving the ball quickly, I think, which helped us a few times kind of just dislodge that low block from Sheffield United. But for me, it has to be, and I know the majority of Spurs fans agree, even though he only played about 20 minutes altogether with Richarlison when he came on, he just offered a different dynamic that we didn't have. When Son is playing number 9, Son is fantastic. One of the best players I've ever seen in a Spurs jersey, but when they're trying crosses into the box, he's not going to be the one to kind of make a nuisance of himself. I think Richarlison came on, he offered a different dynamic. He gave the defenders something to think about that they hadn't already, and then got a goal and assist in the last 10 or so minutes to completely flip that game. So I would have to give it to him.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments whenever you're watching this video. Man of the match, thoughts on Maddison. Josh, what did you think when you saw Maddison pretending he had cramp?
Yeah, I think I think the way Maddison's game went yesterday is kind of testament to our defending, because he started very, very lively, looked very, very good, and you could see he was getting more and more frustrated as time went on. We made it more and more difficult. We were mentioning Wes there, and he saved a lot of shots, but I think the defense did such a good job limiting the angles of those shots that the only ones that they could get through were straight at the keeper, and he was getting very, very frustrated, and at the end there it was frustrated to watch.
Yeah, very much. I mean, Ben, where do we go from here? Newcastle at the Lane next without the suspended McBurney. That's a 1-game ban which he can't appeal. It's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I hate football's full of cliches, and I hate them. And you get it in the Championship. Oh, there's no easy games, but really, it's not just that in the Prem. Every game is so difficult. You don't get any respite at all. I know it's had the international break, but then we got a load of players coming back with injuries. Yeah, like I said, Newcastle as well. Maybe not had the best start of the season they would have been wanting, but still a lot of really good players. And it just goes on from there. I think we've got Arsenal away the week after that, and then from away, it's really hard. And like you said, the fact we've lost McBurney as well, who one of our better players this season, one of our main outlet, our main target man, who when we actually when we actually get on the ball and can start to try and attack, is often the main focal point. And one of our main goal threats, had a great game against Everton the other week. So we've lost him. We've got so many injuries at the back as well. We've got Egan injured, may be okay. The left wing back, we've got more injuries. We can shake a stick out. Like you said, Baldock as well. And the players are tired. They're physically tired after this. I think yesterday as well, such a sucker punch for the players mentally as well. So it's going to be a really hard result to bounce back from. And like I said, we're at Bramall Lane and we need to make it a fortress. But the thing is, I've got no confidence now. We could be if we're level or if we've got a lead to hold on to. You're getting towards the end of the game. Yesterday, I'm counting down 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then the 12 came. You're thinking, forget it, we've lost. and we did. And I've just got
because
no
it's like
confidence
you've
in
got
our
to
ability
play
to hold on.
the first
anymore.
half, a second half, and then another half again.
Yeah, and we haven't got I don't think
we haven't got the depth.
Yeah,
fitness. Mentally, you're not prepared for that because all their lives they've trained for 90-minute games, and now we're changing the rules. Matt, I just want to know this. All Sheffield United fans, I think, I don't want to speak for all, feel like we've got a lot of injuries. Does every fan of every club feel that they've got a lot of injuries?
Yeah, no one has more injuries than us. That's it. That's my input. We at the moment we're fine, but we do have an insane amount of injuries. We definitely do.
Okay, so every fan feels that way. I mean, briefly on that McBurney dismissal, Josh Bladepicker says this: Son speaks to the referee, Son Heung-min, not the referee's son, for about 30 seconds at halftime, moaning about decisions and nothing. And obviously frustrated, McBurney just says, Brennan Johnson's pulling my shirt. Not dissent, just pointing something out. Sent off. Thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, what's the definition of dissent? If you feel that you've the referee's not seen something, you're going to point it out. But it was that lack of consistency. That there were players all game having words with the ref. There were people in the technical area, kind of biting off the fourth official's head at times. It seemed from the video I was watching, and absolutely nothing. And then, as you say, he turns around, he makes a representation about what happened, and he's sent off. And it really did just feel like being kicked when we're down. He's going to be a huge miss for Newcastle, as we've just said. And again, it puts us at a disadvantage. They've affected the game. It'll possibly affect the table. You don't know. But really frustrating, really inconsistent.
Ben, final thoughts on that experience, your entire day. Let's not just focus on the result.
To throw another cliche in, it was a great day ruined by 12 minutes of football, not just the 2 hours. But obviously, it was great to go to the Spurs ground, tick that off. But it's just soul destroying because like you've got that goal was absolutely brilliant. Even if you'll have been watching at home, it'll have been limbs in the living room, but moments like that are what what football's all about. And it's just you're thinking, what a flipping moment that was, and absolute euphoria. And then it just crumbles away, and it's sort of like that brilliant moment has just sort of been ruined forever. And a great day out, obviously met up with Tufty Club and that, but it's just you were coming back on the way back, just thinking. I think obviously that we've been talking about how the top teams and the big stars are sort of pandered to by the ref a bit more because they're the stars of the show. And I think now, like you're looking, we can't compete financially with the players, and then now we can't even do the dark arts anymore of like time wasting. I know it's the other side of it, but we can't compete, and it just got a bit depressed in the end. Thinking so, like I said, all the 3 promoter teams have got a really good chance of being the 3 relegated teams, and it's sort of like I think that more and more the Premier League's becoming a bit of a closed shop, and teams that come up. Like Leeds gave a really good go of it, only managed 3 years back down. It's really hard for teams now, I think the last couple of seasons, to come up and stay up. And I think it's only going to get worse. There's a very good chance the 3 teams, like we were saying yesterday, Burnley won the championship comfortably, struggling. They've got more money than us. They've got better players than us. So what chance, like if you're looking at the championship now, I mean, obviously I know you've got Leicester who've got obviously a bit more heritage in the Prem recently, but I think it's just becoming a bit more. It's almost like a proxy European Super League. It's becoming a really hard league to stay in. So we ended up just getting a bit depressed, going, "We're done for in the Premier Leagues. We're never going to stay in the Prem that long." But other than that, it was a good day.
Yeah, you're on Tufty Club if you want to listen to Travelling, as he's referred to on the post-game Tufty Club. Matt, hopes for Tottenham this season? You're going to win the league or something?
Why not win the league and the FA Cup and the Champions League, even though we're not in it? No, I think this season it's just about kind of continuing to make the progress that we're making. Like I said before yesterday, I would have said we'd be lucky to make top 6. I think that kind of seeing that mentality shift in the squad now could kind of leads me to hope for a little bit more. We're not going to get top 4. We're not that delusional. Well, we are, but not this time. I'm still going to think if we can get top 6, it's going to be a good one. Have a real go at the FA Cup. Between now and January, we've 1 game a week because we've no European football, which is the first time in like 11 years or something like that for us. So it is going to be a real chance to reset and really focus on the games that are ahead of us. But we need to give a good go at the FA Cup, because we were embarrassed to be knocked out of the second round of the Carabao Cup, and we haven't played that in over a decade.
Who knocked you out last season of the FA Cup? I don't remember that.
We didn't play in the FA Cup last season.
Oh, was it? Yeah. You did a Man United, did you?
Yeah, we decided we'd focus on the Champions League, so we just didn't bother playing that one.
Yeah. And you won the Champions League, I recall. Is that right?
We won a game in the Champions League for sure.
Right. Yeah. To be fair, as if I can say anything, we've never been in the Champions League, and it feels like after what Ben said, we never will be. Well, I'm full of the joys of spring. Josh, where is Sheffield United's first Premier League win of the season coming?
It's a great question. I'll have to have a look at the fixture list. I mean, honestly, I made a couple of notes yesterday because obviously I knew I was coming on here today just to remind myself about the game. And, up until that last 12 minutes, it was all positives. And, a couple of imperfections here and there as to be expected. But, I think it could come from anywhere. I think we ran City close to the line. We nearly beat Spurs. I think a little bit more time. We could be a danger to anyone. And I think as soon as we get that first win, I'm hoping we'll just start knocking them down, and we'll have a really good chance at staying up. And I know that sounds a bizarre thing to say with where we are, but we're only 5 games in. It's time to play.
Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us. This will also be available as an audio podcast. Wherever you get your audio podcast, just search Sheffield United Way. Matt, good luck for the rest of the season until you come to Bramall Lane. Ben, I'll probably see you at the Lane at some point. Josh, it'd be great to meet you as well. Thanks all of you for joining us, and thanks all of you for watching. Really appreciate it.